Story 1 Original post. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my neighbor use my driveway after she's been parking in it without asking? So I, 30 female, live in a suburban neighborhood with my husband, 32 male. We have a double driveway that fits both of our cars comfortably, and we've lived here for about 5 years. Our next door neighbor, let's call her Linda, moved in a year ago. She's an older woman in her late 50s who seems friendly on the surface but has started to cause some issues. It started a few months ago when I came home and found her car parked in my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake, so I knocked on her door to ask her to move it. She apologized, saying she had a guest over, and her driveway was full. I let it slide that time. But then it kept happening. I'd come home to find her car, or sometimes her guests' cars, in my driveway. I told her multiple times that it wasn't okay, but she'd just shrug it off and move the car when I asked, often saying things like, "It's not like you were using it right then." The final straw happened last week. My mother-in-law, the one who isn't exactly my biggest fan, was visiting, and I specifically asked her to park in the driveway so she wouldn't block the street. When we came home from running errands, Linda's car was there again. Mother-in-law was already in a bad mood, and she snidely remarked, "Wow, even your neighbors walk all over you. I wonder why." I was furious. I knocked on Linda's door and told her that this was the last time she was parking in my driveway, period. She got defensive, saying I was being unreasonable since she only does it occasionally and that it's just a driveway, not a sacred space. Since then, she started giving me the cold shoulder, and I've noticed her glaring at me whenever I'm outside. My husband says I might have gone too far and should have just let it slide, especially since she's older and it's not worth the drama. Even my mother-in-law, shockingly, agreed, saying that I should pick my battles. But I feel like it's my property, and I shouldn't have to keep asking someone not to use it without permission. At the same time, maybe I overreacted by confronting her so harshly. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my neighbor park in my driveway and possibly escalating things? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, your neighbor is being a jerk. So is your husband. Does he ever complain because there's no room in the driveway when he comes home? I bet if he was inconvenienced enough times, he'll go have a talk with her or to the car. Old people don't get a pass just because they're old. This is coming from a 70-year-old woman. And I wouldn't even consider late 50s old. It's not like mobility issues are common at that age, and that's the only possible excuse I can think of for someone doing this. Not the a-hole. Linda knows what she is doing. Stand your ground and smile back and wave at her. Linda will never look at you again. My mother blows kisses as the woman across the road who can't stand her. She's been doing it since 2004. Your mother is the petty queen and I love it. My grandma used to just say God bless you and get those kinds of people real riled up. Not the a-hole for setting a boundary, but might want to change your approach. That or have her car towed next time she does it, and that will be the final nail in this coffin. Not the a-hole. OP, next time Linda parks on your property, you should immediately call the tow truck. Do not try to keep the peace by allowing Linda free rein on your property. Good fences make for good neighbors. Her want doesn't constitute an obligation on your part. You have no obligation to allow anyone to use your property without your consent. Your mother-in-law and husband need to grow a spine and stop letting an entitled grifter boss them around. Not the a-hole. Your neighbor was repeatedly causing you inconvenience by committing trespass on your property. She's probably acted this way all her life, and made it a condition of having a cordial relationship with her that she be allowed to get away with things like this. You don't need a cordial relationship with her as much as you need exclusive use of your driveway. Your husband is wrong. Is he a doormat? How did expecting your neighbor to stay out of your driveway going too far? Your mother-in-law is wrong too. It's your property and your neighbor is preventing you from using it. Put up a sign at the end of the driveway that says private parking violators will be towed or some such. Then if she parks there again, have her car towed. Don't call her or give her warning. She already knows she's not supposed to park there. Update. Hey everyone, I wanted to update you on my previous post about my neighbor Linda, late 50s, constantly parking in my driveway without asking. For those who didn't see the original post, I, 30 female, live with my husband, 32 male, in a suburban neighborhood with a double driveway. Over the past few months, Linda has repeatedly ignored my requests to stop parking in our driveway. Well, today things finally came to a head. I woke up early for an appointment only to find Linda's car parked in my driveway again, blocking me in. My husband had already left for work, so I knocked on her door and waited for about 15 minutes, but there was no answer. I even tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I was running late and completely fed up, so I called a towing company. They arrived quickly, and as they were hooking up her car, Linda stormed out of her house, furious. She yelled at me and the tow truck driver, calling me petty and claiming I could have just waited a bit longer or left a note. I calmly reminded her that I'd asked her multiple times to stop parking in my driveway, but she wasn't having it. She ended up paying the towing fee, and now she's absolutely livid. She's been telling other neighbors that I'm a vindictive control freak, and a couple of them have hinted that I might have gone too far. Even my husband thinks I could have handled it differently and avoided escalating things. And, of course, my mother-in-law, who was visiting today, had to chime in with one of her usual subtle digs. As we were sitting down for lunch, she casually remarked, "Some people just can't manage conflict like adults." I'm pretty sure she wasn't talking about Linda. So now, Linda glares at me every time she sees me, my husband is annoyed about the neighborhood drama, and my mother-in-law is treating this like it's my personal failure. I still think I was justified, but I'll admit the fallout is a lot to deal with. Just wanted to keep you all updated, thanks for all the advice on the last post. Now for the comments. Seems like you did try to resolve the conflict before escalating. Justified. Mentioned it to her a few times before. Knocked on the door. Called the phone, that's enough. You remained the adult by doing the adult thing and having it towed. The childish thing would have been the broken windows and slashed tires. Your mother-in-law will find anything to be petty about, so ignore that bullcrap. Try parking in the neighbors' driveways and see how they like it. Some people have no perspective until it happens to them, not the a-hole. Just tell the neighbors that you will inform Linda that she is allowed to park in their driveway. Also, stop inviting mother-in-law due to bad behavior. Tell her if she can't control her mouth, you'll have her towed. And her car as well. And her son as well. Some people just can't manage conflict like adults. First step in managing conflicts as an adult is asking someone to stop doing something. Second step is escalating when the other party doesn't listen. You asked, Linda didn't listen, so now Linda can deal with the consequences of parking on private property that isn't hers. Like I said in the other post, make parking in your driveway expensive for Linda. Next time, don't be nice and attempt to ask her to move her car, just call the towing company. Also, put signs up saying unauthorized vehicles will be towed. Shouldn't even require signs. It's absolutely wild to me that anyone would actually think parking in a neighbor's private driveway is okay to do, and to even block their car in. The old lady said the OP should have waited. What the heck? The world doesn't revolve around you, Linda. Now tell your husband and mother-in-law to shut the F up. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not letting a woman cut the line at the grocery store? Hi Reddit. I need your opinion on grocery store etiquette and not letting someone cut the line. Tonight after work I stopped by my local grocery store to grab a handful of items to make dinner. 5 items in total. I maneuvered my cart behind an older woman who was slowly navigating putting her groceries on the belt to be checked out. She was the only person I noticed in front of me. A few minutes later another woman tries to edge her way in line in front of my cart. I gave her a quizzical look and she said, "Oh, I was here before, but I went to go and see if the other line over there was moving faster." I said, "Okay, but you weren't here when I arrived, so," shrug. The woman proceeded to inform me she was here first and that she should be let back in because she only stepped away to see if the other line was faster. I replied that I did not see her here before I joined the line, so she could get behind me or go back to the other line. At this point she showed me that she only had a few things and was shocked that I wasn't going to let her back in. She had 4 packs of Jell-O. I pointed out that I too only had a few things and I wasn't going to move because I did not see her in the line in front of me when I joined. Now this is where I may be the a-hole. At this point we're both getting frustrated in this grocery store pissing match for pole position. She says, "So you're not going to let me back in? Where's your Christmas spirit?" I'd had enough of her entitlement at this point and I shot back, "Don't pull that crap." Honestly, if I had been behind her in line, I would have happily held her place if she has asked. But she wasn't there when I arrived and she just assumed she could cut back in line after a few minutes. Using Christmas spirit as a means to get what she wanted was the last straw for me. In the end she glared at me and said, "I hope you have a Merry Christmas," her voice dripping with sarcasm. And she left to go back over to another cashier. The irony is, we both left the store with our items at the same time. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for not letting this woman cut in front of me and calling her out when she tried to use Christmas spirit to get her way? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, she gambled and lost. She would have most likely had a different experience if asked you first. but she just assumed you'd roll over. I never let people cut the line on me. Ask, and I'll probably say yes, assume, and it's a hard no. That's the thing. She just started trying to edge her way in. It wasn't until I gave her a look that she offered an explanation. And there was no, please could I get back it? Just, oh I was here first but I went to check the other line. Hold the line. Trying to pull the it's Christmas. You did well. Not the a-hole. I was 8 months pregnant buying milk for my other kids at Target because it was near my house and I was too tired to go to the good grocery store. This lady with a preteen and 55 things in her cart was like I need to cut please. I have an unhappy child with me. My grumpy mouth shot off well, lady, I have an unhappy child in me, so back off unless you want my foot in you. I am not usually rude like that but she just rubbed me the wrong effing way. Not the a-hole. You were perhaps not the most polite, but she was being unreasonable and you weren't obligated to back down just because she mentioned Christmas. She could also have showcased her own Christmas spirit by not bothering you when it was her own fault she lost her place in line. I'm okay with mild I'm the a-hole here. I snapped at her in frustration. But she was being so entitled. I was over it. Totally justified. I would have laughed and said that I'm not Christian. Not the a-hole. My response of don't pull that crap was so automatic and out of character for me. But I'm an atheist would have been fun. NTA. I'm so glad I read your post. I'm British. We actually invented queuing. That might not really be true but we are famous for it. There are rules. The first rule is that if you have a full trolley and someone has 2 items, you invite them to move ahead of you in the queue. If you have a similar number of items then this doesn't apply. The second rule is that you thank the person who allowed you to go ahead of them and say goodbye to each other as if you have been friends for 12+ years. Third rule. If you leave the queue you start again. The only exception to this rule is if you leave your trolley or basket in the queue and tell the person behind you that you forgot to collect an item. You have to also tell them exactly what that item is. For example, an 800g Warburton's toasty loaf. Don't return with a medium sliced loaf. It has to be the toasty loaf. Fourth rule. At some point another checkout will be opened whilst you are queuing and utter carnage will commence. Someone behind you in the queue will run to the new checkout instead of following the rules. This is when we British people mutter to each other about how rude some people are. But we stay in our queue. Because we know that there is going to be a 5-minute gap between the announcement that the checkout is opening and the actual cashier arriving. Just had me snorting with laughter. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for not working on forgiving my sister in therapy even though we're in family therapy? I, 17 female, stopped talking to my sister, 14 female, 8 months ago. We always had fights, sometimes even bad or annoying fights. But 8 months ago we got into a fight and my sister told me she wished I'd died with my mom so she could have a perfect family instead of me always reminding everyone that it won't ever happen. She said it like she meant it too. She told me I was the worst person she ever knew and she didn't get why I had to be alive and I kept her mom from having a kid of her own and making the perfect family. My sister realized when she stopped that I wasn't reacting the same to our fight. Most of our fights I roll my eyes and walk away. But she stopped and started looking guilty but I jumped in and told her I wish I had a real sibling but I'm an only child now so we can't all get what we want. She tried to apologize but I completely shut her out. Our dad heard about the fight and he told me she's younger and I have to forgive her. I told him I don't have to do anything and I'm not forgiving her for saying that because I know she means it. He told me I was mean back to her saying I wished I had a real sibling and that I'm an only child when I'm not. I told him that I'm done so we're not sisters anymore. He tried talking to me about it but I told him I was done. So he and my stepmom decided we all needed family therapy. A lot of stuff came up. How our mom died when I was 5 and my sister was 2, almost 3. How I remembered mom and my sister didn't and when our dad married stepmom our relationship and what she is to us is different. To my sister she's mom. To me she's dad's wife. To my sister mom isn't anything to her and she doesn't love her, something she told me so many times. To me she's my only mom and I miss her and love her and having my stepmom didn't change it. I talked about how mom's birthday and anniversary are ignored. How my dad and stepmom made me hide most of mom's things even though they were already in my room, because my stepmom felt disrespected seeing them everywhere in my room. My sister said she hates that I won't let us be a family of 4 and she hates that I won't accept my stepmom because she thinks people who are alive deserve the love instead of dead people. She also thinks it's unfair because my stepmom and dad never had kids together because dad already had 2 so she thinks I'm selfish to deny her 2 kids. My stepmom said she wished I had accepted her and loved her, but she knows neither thing happened. When we got to the last fight, my sister told the therapist she was so angry at me because when she was out with my stepmom she was asked about having kids of her own and my stepmom looked sad. She said it made her feel bad for my stepmom and she hated me for doing that. And when she saw me she thought of all the times I showed my stepmom she's not my mom, and when I put remembering mom before my stepmom, and it made her want me to know just how she felt. I interrupted and said I knew she meant it and that I had told my dad, but he didn't believe me. I was asked to comment on the fight and I said I was just done. I said we've always fought about my stepmom and I'm tired of being told I'm wrong to love my mom instead of the woman my dad married. I said I accepted a long time ago that my sister loved her and calls her mom, but it doesn't mean I need to. We went over and over stuff for weeks about the fight and I was asked to work on some forgiveness exercises and I said no. I said I'm not going to work on forgiving her and I'm done, like I said repeatedly. The therapist asked why I was there and I told her I was forced to come. But I never agreed to work on things. My sister started crying and begging me to give her a chance, and my dad was pissed at me for making my sister cry and for not doing what the whole point of therapy is for. He told me I was a disappointment and how I should figure out what I'll do in 2 months because he won't support me terrorizing my sister with lack of forgiveness. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. I talked about how mom's birthday and anniversary are ignored. How my dad and stepmom made me hide most of mom's things even though they were already in my room, because my stepmom felt disrespected seeing them everywhere in my room. What does the therapist have to say about that? The therapist asked if it was true, and when they said yes, she said it was unhealthy and had created a bad home life. Can't remember the exact word she used, but she wanted them to know that wasn't good. Did they change anything about it? Nope. Nothing changed. They didn't want to go into that stuff. Just the relationship between me and my sister. Not the a-hole. Send all of your mother's things to a trusted friend or relative. Sister may try to go in and destroy them. Your father may try also. You owe no one forgiveness. What your sister said is vile. Tell your father what a disappointment he is to you. You definitely need a new therapist. She should have made your sister, father, stepmother learn how to be better people and not force relationships on you. Move out as soon as you can. If you can, speak to your mother's parents or other relatives about living with them. Not the a-hole. You're not the problem. Your dad and stepmom tried to force we're a happy family instead of letting you grieve and feel how you wanted. Your stepmom did the besties thing with your sister. On what planet do you confide in a literal child to the point where she's defending you all the time? Clearly, stepmom was being inappropriate and oversharing because she hoped your little sister would give you a hard time and bully you into the family. F her. Your sister is young and dumb and there's no telling if she'll ever grow out of how she's feeling. She's been trained for it for a decade. Your dad is threatening to kick you out. That's a big deal. Do you have a plan? College on student loans, junior college, full-time job prospects, friends, family on your mom's side you can crash with while you figure it out, etc. You need to have a plan so you can realistically tell this family to fuck off and move on with your life. Do you have a trusted parent or teacher or counselor? Hell, I'd bring it up in therapy. Dad told me is kicking me out in 2 months when I turn 18. Do you know any good shelters for abandoned teens? Also, make sure you have all your important docs, social security card, birth certificate, passport, driver's license, everything of your mom's they try to throw out, somewhere super safe. Not the a-hole. Your dad is an asshole for trying to wipe the whole memory of your mom from you. He's an ass for making you hide all your mom's things, and he's an asshole for pushing you to forgive your sister, and he's an asshole for threatening to kick you out because you are not doing what he says. Tell your father to go F himself. His precious daughter wished you dead. Repeatedly doubled down and said that she meant every word she said. Remind him and her that she is dead to you and you will be burying her when your dad kicks you out in 2 months. Wish him luck and tell him he will only have one daughter in 2 months' time and he must lose your number and forget about you because for all intents and purposes they will both be dead to you. His money better be a great comfort to him when he is old and dying. Sometimes you have to choose yourself and your own peace and chart your own way through life without the emotional blackmail and gaslighting and financial blackmailers wanting to force you to do what they want because they will cut you off. Not the a-hole here. Dad's basically warned me I won't be his daughter anymore. I won't cry over it because I think he's sucked as a dad to me when it's about mom. Or even my stepmom. Clearly he wants me to be easy like my sister has been for him. Thank you for listening. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. If you want more stories like these, turn on your notification to receive the latest stories.